Well, thank you for joining us. Let's get talking now. The scarcity of cash that has characterized the Naira redesign has caused conventional banks to struggle with the attendant pressure that has come from Nigerians migrating to mobile and digital banking, causing their platforms to be well stretched. However, with automated seller machines, disable and over-the-counter operations non-existent, banks' digital platforms were overwhelmed as most Nigerians would try to make transactions struggle to keep daily operations going. According to many, this has resulted in gains for the commercial banks during the period, but not without many challenges due to poor internet connection. Well, iBrandTV takes a look at how the policy has impacted the Nigeria fintech sector and the change spending in the spending culture of Nigerians. Well, Wale Amin is a journalist, entrepreneur, and publisher of Exclusive Africa. He joins us virtually now. Thank you for joining us, Wale. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, first I would like you to give us an assessment of the Naira redesign policy, with the way bank has responded or has adopted it, in also in the light of cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. So talk to us, how far or how successful has this policy been so far?
Okay, thank you, friend. Well, I think that question, the answer to that question is there for us all to see. I think it's safe to say that it's not gone so well. We all know that it was a hurried process, deadline, mandate given to the banks, and it has actually caught many of them napping. If we must tell ourselves the truth, it has caught virtually everybody along the value chain napping, because you just realize that many banks, the capacity, their inability to meet up with a surge in demand, a surge in digital transactions, came to the fore, and it's just there for us all to see. Everyone is crying out there, and it's been a hell of a time. We all are we can testify to this.
But did you think that the banks, the commercial banks, did you think they perform well enough with regards to the fintech sector, especially those financial institutions who have integrated technology into their operations and all of that? So with just give us an assessment of the fintech sector so far.
Okay, yeah. So this is my own assessment of the fintech vis-a-vis the financial banking institutions. So basically, even before the cashless policy, we've always had issues with glitches, downtimes, apps going offline, transactions not pulling through, transactions being stalled, and all of that. Take note that really, like I said earlier, the cashless policy just brought to the fore, the bank's inability. This issue has been there before now, and majorly influenced by tech workers, moving out of the country. That has been an issue on this side, and then you now had this coming in. So it's been there before now, and so far so good. We all can see, we all know that it's not been a jolly ride at all. So much of issues. You have transactions going, not pulling through 24 hours, 48 hours. People complaining here and there, and yet they kind of, and I know that many of these fintechs, many of these banking institutions, they've been running helter-skelter. Unfortunately for them, it's also not been easy, because they are short of manpower. A majority of senior tech guys guys, have already found their way outside the country, and many more are still even planning to. So the shortage of manpower is there and has been there. And, this, I think, just brought, that to the fore, and, has shown that we really need to scale up in activities. We really need to scale up in capacity to manage, upsurge in transactions, in demand of, digital platforms.
Okay. Would you say then, because you talked about the fact that most of these commercial banks, were caught napping, perhaps they didn't, they were not ready for the impact that was to follow the Naira redesign. So would you say then that perhaps the biggest winners of this policy are the, are the banks and other financial institutions who have integrated technology in their operation, even though they seem not to have been, well prepared for the impact?
Okay. Yeah, this is what I would say. I think the biggest winners, yes, okay, we could say financial institutions have, banks now are also winners, but I think to a large extent, it has given fintech platforms the opportunity to actually grow also. I don't have the data at hand right now, but if we are to look at, if we go in there and do some analysis, we would realize that there's actually been a surge in the embrace of fintech platforms, microfinance apps and all of that. So I think they are the biggest winners because there's a slow but gradual shift from your traditional banks, traditional financial institutions to the fintech apps. Many people are now getting to embrace fintech apps. They are getting to believe more in it. Before now, if somebody were to tell you, okay, I'm going to transfer money to you, and and he or she is giving you an OPay account, you probably would think twice. But if you are to study, if you go out there, in the open, in the public, you would realize that many people are getting to embrace more of these fintech platforms, and they're also getting to show forth what they can actually do, even though that does not also take away the fact that the challenges, they've not been immune from the challenges, because yes, cross-platform transfer, cross-platform communication has also not gone so smoothly, because it's a big ecosystem. So if it affects one person, to a large extent, it will rub off on the others also. So they've also not been immune. But nevertheless, I think they are the biggest winners, and they continue to be winning. And we are seeing an upsurge in the embrace and in the adoption of fintech platforms for banking transactions and banking processes.
Especially when the CBN says that this is also targeted at increasing or enhancing the level of cashless policy and inclusiveness as well. But let's look at how you think. True. Yes. Let's look at how you think this has shaped our spending culture. The usual, spending pattern of average Nigerian is you go with heavy money, cash, and then you get into perhaps in a mall, and then you buy things and all of that. But do you think in the last 2 months it has really, really impacted on our spending culture in Nigeria?
Absolutely. Like you said, before now the culture was, to have large sums of cash at hand and all of that. And personally, and for each and every one of us.
Hello, Wale, can you hear me? We get a bit of distortion in the connection there, but I think Wale was trying to.
We're having to do this, we're having to change.
Yes, please go ahead.
We're having to change our spending patterns in so short a time. That for me is the shortfall of this. But on the bright side, I think definitely it has improved our spending patterns. People are getting to embrace more of cashless transactions, even though even though we now see that, oh, our financial institutions probably do not even have the capacity, to actually carry this thing through, and you get to have people being stuck on the road, being stuck in carrying out their transactions. But nonetheless, I think it's gradually shifting our spending patterns, and I think if the CBN continues in this line, albeit in a more relaxed manner, because that is very essential in the situation we have now. Because trying to cause a shift in pattern within such a short time, 1 month, 2 months, really is not the ideal. But if this can be elongated and can be made to, probably just as the Supreme Court has announced, if this can be relaxed and made to be gradual, not so fast, I think many people will, get to change their spending patterns, and we just might see, every one of us going cashless as the CBN really wants it to be.
Even though the policy has been applauded by many, it brought untold hardship for Nigerians. I mean, if you look at the fact that a lot of people, have to queue for long hours, in the bank all day for some people. So, but what are the things that you think we need to correct or sit down? If you look at the fallout of this policy, things that the CBN needs to sit down and look at in terms of approach, methodology, and going forward, so that we can have a smooth transition if there has to be a policy like this.
Okay, yeah. So, just like I've said, I think the first thing here is to make this very inclusive. I don't think the CBN has done much in making this very inclusive. I think it has just been the thought of a very few select people. If this is made more inclusive, the thoughts and the yearnings of more Nigerians will be taken into view, and the issue of elongating the period, will come to the fore, just like I've mentioned. So I think that is very, very critical for the CBN to take note of. Get thoughts, get stakeholders, for such a huge transition. You wouldn't expect it to just happen. You have so much of dynamics that comes into play in all of this. You have the micro spenders, you have the petty traders, you have, so many people, across the value chain who needs to be educated, who needs to be carried along, who needs to be told, hey, this is how this goes. Not just, forcing everyone to, move in this direction. So I think a key point here is to carry people along. Again, also comes with, like I mentioned here, is the fact that there is the hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello.
Yes.
So one of the things we have,
please go on.
One of the things we have realized is also the fact that our financial institutions need to do more. They need more manpower. They need more capacity. They need more boundaries, to manage such instances. And this is one of the things that should have come into play if there were, information flow. So that is one of the things another banking institutions needs to be scaled up. Manpower needs to be put in place that, even if there's going to be a downtime, it doesn't exceed, say, 20 minutes, say 30 minutes. Not things are going to hours, days, and people are stranded. So I think those two things, the free flow of information, and the CBN also actually, carrying every stakeholder along the value chain along, down to, even those who make use of these services. I think those are the things that need to be taken into consideration.
I think absolutely. Those are the things that need to be taken into consideration. Just before I let you go, there are those who are saying, look, CBN, you targeted a particular, some set of people or a group of people with your policy. You remember the issue or the conversation around, vote buying and how to address it or curb it. Perhaps if you withdraw this Naira from circulation, you should be able to tackle the issue of vote buying. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled, so we should start seeing these new notes along with old notes, rather the old notes along with the new notes out there in a moment. So, but do you think that the fact that the Supreme Court has ruled that we should have these old Naira notes out there, so what is likely to change going forward, especially we have the election around the corner this Saturday? Can you hear me? I'm not sure if Wale can hear me. Can you hear me, Wale? I'm not sure if Wale can hear me.
Yeah, I lost you for a bit.
Yes.
I lost you for a bit.
So I was asking.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Initially, the Naira redesign, one of the reason people are giving is that it will curb, or the reason why people have applauded the redesign Naira note is because it will curb vote buying. And with it, that, of course, we saw the effect in the just concluded presidential election. Election is just around the corner. That's the gubernatorial election this Saturday.
Hello.
The Supreme Court has ruled. I'm not sure if Wale can still hear me, but so maybe we need to just quickly take a break and fix that, and we'll be right back to take that. Please stay with us. This is Business Breakfast. Let's finally, wrap it up with Wale Amin. Thank you for joining us. I was asking you what is likely to change. Remember that the Supreme Court has ruled that this should be allowed until, December 2023. And remember, some who applauded this Naira redesign policy is that it will curb vote buying. And that we saw the effect of that in the just concluded presidential election. Now we have gubernatorial election coming up this Saturday. So I was asking you what is likely to change now that the Supreme Court has ruled that the 1,500 Naira banknotes should be allowed in the system.
Yeah, okay. So basically, I don't think much is going to change. I don't think we're going to see any drastic or really monumental change happening here. Like you said, many people have adduced to the fact that one of the major reasons
just
for
a moment.
this.
Let me quickly add this. Just a moment. Pardon me to jump in. Remember that the commercial banks are now being directed to start reissuing these old notes to customers.
Yeah, so definitely. But like I said, we have just how many days to the gubernatorial election now? I think 2, 3, 4 days, thereabout. So I don't think much is going to change. What I see happening here is that life is just going to continue as usual. For the case of vote buying that was adduced to that was the likely reasons why this was brought up in the first place and was made to go into effect within such a short time. I think those who want to pack up the money will still have the opportunity to pack them up, even as the days go on. So really for me, I think it's just a case of status quo just continuing. The effort has been made, but we all saw what happened during the presidential elections anyway. How much that this policy went in effecting and ensuring that there wasn't much of both vote buying, I think it's debatable. It's very, very debatable. So personally, I don't see much happening. I don't see much going into effect. What we're just going to have is possibly the flow of cash into the system may just be an uptick, but it's not even going to be so instantaneous. Don't also forget that it takes time for the money to circulate. People are going to get into the banks, they're going to withdraw, people are going to buy things, and purchases are going to happen, transactions is going to happen. So this thing is not going to take just one day, and we have just 4 days to materialization thereabout. So that's why personally I think nothing significant is really going to change. What probably would have is that people would probably have the system would take up and cash would begin to flow. Again, it's not going to, like I said, over how much was mocked up. I think about 2 trillion naira said to have been mocked up by the CBN. So it's not going to take a day for that to go back into the economy, into the system. So it's a gradual process. So we can't assume that the cash would be available in everybody's hands within a day or within 2 days. So it's just going to be a gradual process, and life is just going to continue for every common man, for every man on the street. So I think that's just what we should anticipate and what would happen. The gubernatorial election would come and it will go, and those who want to do what they want to do will somehow still find a way to work around it, no doubt. So nothing much, really, nothing much.
We just have to leave it there. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, Wale Amin, entrepreneur, publisher, Exclusive Africa. Thank you for coming on board. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, do have a great day. And still to come after the break. Brent crude futures had risen 40 cents. That's about 0.5% to $86.58 a barrel in early trading. Well, we'll bring you more details after this timeout. Please stay with us.